You know, and even I think back to, old game EA did called Majestic, which would like call you on your phone and things like that. And that was, I don't know, 10 plus years ago they did, and no one's really played with that. But imagine now it's like, yeah, you're playing Watch Dogs, and all of a sudden you get a call from a character on your phone and things like that.
The more
And
you
it's
can immerse the player, I think the better.
Well, and now people are used to having their devices as entertainment devices. Back then it was like if someone called you on your phone,
Right.
that was a pretty big deal. Like ring, ring, mom might get it. Now phones are everywhere with you, and you're used to it beeping. If you got a text message from a game, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
So
and
it's
also
more
that's
the
cool from a
available
narrative perspective, because they can sort of break that fourth wall if appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Assassin's Creed, all of a sudden Desmond's trying to get in touch with you or something, and it's like, I guess it can also lead to a lot of surprising moments, I think.
Yes.
Right? And one of the great things about, both games, what you guys have done with Assassins, and I think with some of the, especially Walking Dead from Telltale, is that the games just surprise you in how they approach narrative, and it's unexpected. And I think that's something that, one of the great things about narrative is that it can be surprising as you go through it. And I think the more, if you can think of other devices and other ways to get into that, and even choice. I mean, that's something that I think people, are always surprised. Hey, like even in Mass Effect, hey, I can actually kill Rex. It's like, I can't believe that's possible. And I think the same thing happened a little bit with Walking Dead, where you're like, oh my God, can I actually make that choice? And then you can, and you see the consequences of it.
Yeah, and I think the choice and consequence consequence part of it is something that really works with all gamers. They really understand that notion. I took an action, and there was a resulting action, and I think that's an important thing from the gaming perspective.
So the technology you mentioned, new Xbox, new PlayStation, all these new systems. I mean, there's lots of excitement about those, and the graphics, and the physics, and the new technologies. I mean, how do you think storytelling will change? I mean, the characters will be more lifelike, and you might believe them a little bit more. But are we going to see narrative really change because of the additional processing power, or is in some ways, like you said with Walking Dead, you could have done that game 5-6 years ago?
Well, when I look at it, and what's going to happen is that all the media is going to be on that box.
Right.
The non-interactive and the interactive are going to live together.
Right.
You're going to have all of your content stored there. So the relationship between the two pieces of the franchise can live closely together and can cross-pollinate. That's what's interesting to me. And then there's all of the connected experience stuff that's also going to be more integrated into that, into the device as well. And that's where all your storytelling ideas come in. Let's have a phone call, or let's get a text message, or let's get an email. There's all different types of things you can do, and it's going to be focused on a box in front of the TV that's capable of being interactive.
Or this idea that you might be able to just bring the narrative with you everywhere you go, right? It will live beyond just on your TV screen on your couch. So this idea that it can be something that you take with you that becomes a part of your everyday, again, just helps increase the credibility of the worlds that we're creating, and increases the player's immersion and emotional response to the stuff that's in there. I think from a more technical perspective in terms of actually capturing and presenting narrative, I'm curious to see what starts to happen with the increase in performance capture technology. Right. I think that there are obviously great things that it brings to the table. Something that though concerns me as someone that traditionally was a writer is that it begins to reduce the opportunities for iteration. Yeah. There is so much that goes into bringing the people in and suiting them up and capturing the entire moment, that if you go back a few weeks later and you decide you want to clean something up or tweak something or change something, with a lot of other pieces of a game, there's tons and tons of iteration, right? And you tweak and you code and you debug, and it's very hard and quite expensive to do that when you're talking about performance capture stuff. So, I'm glad that people are looking to this technology, but we also need to be looking at ways to interface with it in a more flexible manner, so that we're not constantly finding ourselves in a position where several months down the road, they're like, well, we can't redo that scene because it would take too much time and too expensive. We have to call everyone back in and spend the whole day in the studio.
Text to speech.
It's funny that you say that, because the program that we use at Ubisoft to write scripts, and I know that other studios have a version of this, does what we essentially call robot voice, where before anything is recorded, it will sort of spit in that text-to-speech version. And I don't know how useful it is, but it's better than silence. It's better than text on the screen. And it also makes sure that you're getting the dialogue in, because you don't want to suddenly hear a robot talking in the middle of the cutscene. It's very bad.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see kind of where narrative is going to go, because again, it's something that's always been there in games. I think you guys, especially over the past few years, have been doing some interesting stuff, especially with your new studio inside of Ubisoft. Seems like it's going to be a focus for both you guys moving forward.
Yeah, well, the first thing is paying attention to it and making it as important as everything else.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what's happening now, and that's why this is happening now. All the high fidelity graphics and everything else, we've been paying attention to that forever. We've been getting great at that. Now let's put our focus on this, and I think you're going to see huge steps forward because people are starting to look at it.
All right, well, that's all the time we've got. Dan, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming
Thank
by.
you.
Congrats on all the awards and success of The Walking Dead. And Corey, good luck with Alice, the new Ubisoft
Thank you.
studio. We look forward to hearing more about that. We'll see you next week for an all-new episode of The Bonus Round.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.